Good, way late at night here. Way late. Let me make sure the sound is up on this. I think it is. Hope so. Anyway, joyful Christian mystic hermit here. Doing better laying down. I still struggle with way too much pain, but only took one extra pill today, augmenting the patch. Need to change the patch. Should have done it this evening, but haven't yet. I just want to say that after that video cut off suddenly because I pushed that button by accident on the side of the phone by holding it. And but God just kept he really corrected me a lot and really sort of let me have it, that reminded me of a time, and I'll go into this more in detail, but just to mention it, years ago, probably 25 years ago, I woke up with a waking vision. I was waking up, and there was this beautiful baby, just the face, this gorgeous baby, maybe 5 months old, 6 months old, maybe 8 months old, in that range. Gorgeous little baby boy. And I was told, be a guest. The baby didn't talk, but I heard this voice say, be a guest. And from that, all of this insight came. And I wrote about it in an article for the newsletter I wrote at the time, Called to Suffer. And my mother loved it also. I called her and told her about that. How I'd wakened up inside, and I had to have been baby Jesus as an infant, because it was such a most perfect, beautiful child. And then there's this wisdom that came, connected with that child, though. But the child didn't speak it. That would have been bizarre. It was too young to speak. Would have not. God doesn't do things that are bizarre in visions. They're beautiful and meaningful, and well orchestrated, well developed, and shown us. And same with locutions. They're always very wise and have, at least the ones to me, have an element of mystery that I have to sort of figure out what it means. God knows I like to do that. I like to analyze. So he treats me with that. So it was, be a guest. And God was reminding me of that as I continued to prune and to clean up debris and things. And so it was, to be a guest and to be right, be good. And so it really was all very good. It's all good. And God was pointing that out to me, that it's true. It is good. So, and pretty much let me have it, get over it. And be a guest, act as a guest in this life. So that reminded me of that message I had years ago from the infant Jesus, be a guest. So I'll share what I wrote about it in another video, the Be a Guest video, I'll call it. But all is good is also very good. So I did end up, this evening I found the ideal house. It sold just a few days ago. It's just south of here in a small place, 1,487 square feet, down south in a different subdivision, just maybe 3/4 of a mile, just down the very next road, street, the next street over, and then over. So it's like south of here in these flatlands, close to the post office, close to the grocery, not far. I wouldn't have to go in a lot of traffic to get there. close to my bank, the library, as I mentioned, the post office, and close to here. But I've been praying for signs from God. And honestly, there hasn't been good communication. And my daughter would need to purchase it with her funds. She would qualify. I wouldn't qualify. I'm too low income, and everything's in this. I have a huge mortgage for this. And this is like I paid, probably now it would be nearly double. Then you take away from the realtor, but if it were finished, it would be worth a lot more. But I paid less for it, obviously 7 years ago. But it's not flowing. This house just sold. Move in, 1487, quiet neighborhood, no houses on 3 sides, fenced yard for the dogs, big windows, light, same age as mine, or a little younger, I think, but same subfloor, ideal. But it's all good. So I texted the daughter. I don't know if she'll read it, but I mentioned that this ideal place came up, but it's sold. I go through low HOA, $29 a month, and I mean the gardens aren't developed. I wouldn't. They're just mow the yard, let it go, mow it, paint the fence, but fenced and open, little open, could have moved right in, but it's gone. And I spend time looking because I want to cooperate, and realistic. This is big for me, and I'm not well. Even with the patch, even building up, my tube came, but I've been asking for God's will and signs. And this is a big proposition. This requires communication. And so I texted and said, that all these positives, but I said, the communication is inconsistent, and you would be needed to qualify for it. And there would be other things. I could help with an equity loan, but 2 months out of 3, I can't make it through the month. My income is so low. So, I would need some kind of assurance that somebody could help pay for the months I couldn't, and then I could try to pay them back on this 3rd month when I get a little more money, But I was trying to accommodate. It had the right kind of subfloor, and it's not new, but I don't care. I don't need high and mighty by any means, but I do admit, this is a lot. I'm in a lot of pain, despite the patch, So I wrote this and sent it. It's not positive. I had to face it. I wrote. I get it that my immediate family has issues with me. They all have had. My cousins don't. My aunt doesn't, other than I became Catholic, but she's over that. Was immediately. She was always gracious and kind to me. I don't think she understood when we didn't have a anything but a graveside for my mother. She never brought it up. She wasn't active in a church here, but she'd been brought up in one here. I mean, not here, in the Midwest, in our hometown. But I had a Mormon sister. I had a evangelical, or I suppose it'd be a Bible literalist sister, who was very against the Methodist Church because they waffled on sexuality and on abortions. And she's a hardliner. And she gets depressed and has anxiety disorder. So that was she didn't want Methodist. And that would be really the only link my mother had. My eldest sister, being Mormon, she just wanted it over with and get her money, even though she was independently wealthy, but they're into money, that particular sister. And it's good to be, I would be, I suppose, if I had some too. If I were good with money or whatever. But, it's not a be all end all for me. And I don't know, I think there's something, I'll have to look it up, that I think that the more they have money that they give to the church, to the Mormon faith, or their ward, or they have a ward and I forget the other name they use, stake, because he's way up in it. I think the more you pay, you can get higher positions for the man. They have influence. Well, that's true, really. And, the wealthier Catholics donate a lot and they get on the parish council if they want. That's their big reward. Or they, the priest will go out to dinner with them every Saturday night if they want. They pretty much have the priest in their hand for all the money they give, because they throw, oh, I won't give it if, it's human. It's part of the institution. So I think part of that is behind why, they like the money and want to have lots, or more than what they already have, which is a lot. So, her husband was very, very gifted in marketing and was way up in big corporations, marketing departments. They made good salary. And then even in retirement, he was doing something with marketing or in charge of business students at big universities. And finally now he's 80, over 80. He, oh my goodness, yeah, he's over 80. He isn't working anymore, but doesn't need to. He does things at their church. I think he's way up in some position. So, people are different. So, and I was worn out. I'd been going every day, and I had been up like 2 nights or something with my mom and staying there in a room, and they wouldn't let me stay on a lounge chair out in the, not a lounge chair, but, one that would go back, or even a little studio sofa. I slept on that one night, and then I was told I couldn't. I had to sleep on the linoleum on the cement on that floor in a room right beside my mom's bed. At the foot of her bed was where I was. But she had a lounge thing, but it wouldn't stay back. It would flip up on me. You had to be very heavier, to get it to stay back, and it would spring. And my little back couldn't take that. So that was before it was after the first surgery in 87. That would have been in 2004, October 10th, 11th, and she passed on the 12th. And I'd been there like the week before, every day, long days. And then I think the last 4 nights I stayed there until they caught me. Somebody told on me that I was sleeping. No one was there at night, out in their little receiving area. Nobody was on that little, they had other sofas, but they were fed up with me because I would make the nurses get off their stations and off their little phones and come down and tend to my mother when she would need pain med, or when she would need everything changed because she was lost her capacities by then. And the last night, they never even came in to check her. And she was a mess. And I just wait. The next morning, then even this head guy got me in another room and started accusing me. Some aide had been convinced that I had, where's my crucifix on me, had stolen my mother's rings off her fingers. And I said, number one, this is my dad's ring. This was my mother's first engagement ring, but she gave my sisters and us she divided everything up 3 years prior just to have it done. She didn't want anything to have to be going through any kind of probate. She had divided up her furniture. Everything she had of any value was listed. I had the list, but not with me, of what each sister got, what I got, and she divided up very evenly. I insisted on it, and she drew we categorized things by type of cost or meaning, and she would draw. I put a dot on each dime, 3 dimes, a different color. Well, one we left plain, the other 2 had colors. And my mother would choose. I put it in a basket or something, and she'd reach in, or maybe it was a cup even, something smaller, reach in and pull out a dime. It would be for this grouping of 3. And I'd point to an object, one of the 3, and she would pull out a dime, and whichever color dot represented my sisters or me, or the no dot, then, or I think we had dots on each one, even like white, red, and blue, with a marker, I think we did, or maybe black, red, and blue, something like that. Then that item that we had decided would be first, whatever dot representing whatever girl, daughter, would get that. The next one, draw the next 2 out, from the next 2 was that one, and I'd hold it up so she couldn't see. And one of the rings was an emerald, a beautiful emerald ring that my dad had bought. And my sister Marcia, her dot drew that ring. And my mom said, oh, I wanted that to go to you so you could give it to Elizabeth, my daughter, because she was born in May, so birthstone. And I said, Mom, we can't start doing that, because I said, I'm going to have to be able to honestly tell my sisters that everything was done perfectly honestly, that you didn't do me any favors. Well, it turned out I got the sapphire. Turns out my first granddaughter was born in August. That's the sapphire ring. So my mom's ring went for a granddaughter anyway. Instead of her granddaughter, went to her great-granddaughter, who she never met, was born 2 years after she passed away. So, it all works out, but I had to keep it honest, because my sisters were already really put out with me. So felt that I was favored, or was because Mom took them off and put me in charge of things, because the eldest had a very bad thing she was going to do. And the middle one was going along with it, but she had good intentions. The eldest probably thought they were good intentions, but she was after money before it was her time, before Mom died. So, wasn't going to happen. She wanted to go to court, get Mom declared incompetent so that she could take over the money then. And no, Mom wasn't incompetent. That wasn't honest. And Mom knew what she was doing. She had her long-term health insurance, and there was plenty left for, more than I'd ever seen for me. It was pittance for them, but it was a lot for me. It wasn't pittance for the middle sister. She appreciated it very much, but it was a small amount compared to the wealth of the eldest. but still something. I mean, a lot. She sure appreciated it, but it just didn't come early. Had to wait. So, see, it's, sometimes we just have to do always the right thing. But I was being accused of taking these off Mom's fingers on her deathbed, and I absolutely had not. And then they went around gossiping that I was trying to kill my mother because they walked in one time. My mom's oxygen things had come out of her nose. She was too weak to fix it. I was over there getting it back up into her nose so she could breathe because I didn't want to. She rang her bell, but of course they don't come. They had stopped coming. They got tired of dealing with her. And so if I had gone down the hallway to get them, she, with as bad as her lungs were and hardly able to breathe with her oxygen in, she would have died or really been close to it and struggling without her oxygen. So I was putting it back in, and some aide walked in and like that, and I said, I'm just putting it in. And my mom looked at her like, what on earth? But my mom could barely talk. Otherwise, she would have said, no, my daughter was just putting it in. But it was the night before she'd passed. So it was getting very ugly. And this man, in the morning of the day my mom did pass, he had me in some room and really going at it with me, accusing me of that somebody had told him that I was doing my laundry there. No, I had a place to do my own laundry. I was in this nice house by a parish in the city, and where the religious sisters used to live. They rented it to me because they had left, and I needed a place to live fast. Because I had to keep going to my mom's to be with her and make sure, I promised my dad on his deathbed I would make sure I would take care of Mom. I promised him that. And because, he was worried about that he wouldn't be there to do that. So, so I was staying there at the end day and night and got accused of that. And I had washing and dryer in the place where I was living. And I wouldn't do that anyway. Yuck, I'm gonna go and use their laundry. So it was the laundry for the assisted living. I used to do my mom's clothes there. She didn't like her clothes done in the whole group laundry. They kept losing things. She didn't like it that her clothes were being lost. So I did her laundry in their assisted living little laundry area. It wasn't mine. It's hers. And she was paying plenty. I could do it. She needed her laundry done without her clothes being lost, given to some other patient who maybe didn't have their wits and didn't know it. So even though all her clothes were marked, they marked everything with big black markers. They never found those clothes. So, and then what else were they yelling at? That I was sleeping. I slept on the sofa at night out there. Well, not long. I kept getting up to check on my mom, but get a couple hours here and there. So, anyway, it was so, and I pulled out my phone. I started to call. He says, who are you calling? I said, my lawyer. I said, I'm not liking how you're talking with me, and I have grounds to sue you. Sue this place. Because no one came in and checked on my mother, and she's laying in there all night with her mess, and she's still in there in it. Because your staff isn't doing what they're supposed to do for her. For the $3,500 a month she's paying, which was a lot back in 2004. What? So he gets up and goes in and, he says, well, you should have said so. I said, well, you had me in your little office yelling at me. I was going to get someone in the morning. I said, frankly, I was exhausted, laying there on the floor, trying to get what little sleep. My mother wanted to talk most of the night, bless her heart, and I felt guilty. By 4 in the morning, I said, Mom, I just can't. But I said, I wanted to wait, see if the staff was ever going to come. I said, my mom was so out of it, she didn't know. She didn't know. But I knew no one came in and checked on her all night long. And in her critical, and they knew she was dying. But, so I should have had a lawsuit, but even for them accusing me of those things, defamation of character, false accusation without any proof of anything, good grief. So, see, I just get into these situations. It's just, anyway, I've been thinking about Mama. I've been praying about this situation. Here was this ideal house, but someone wasn't answering me until finally I find out in some other state, and didn't say what, but just said where she was. But that's nice. I figured, probably doing a tournament. Probably the one that she had mentioned. I don't know. It goes through periods of not wanting to communicate. And that's okay, but that doesn't make a good basis for any kind of a business arrangement. I don't think. I figure so I wrote to her and said, here was this ideal place, just sold, but I said, it relies on you to qualify. I can't qualify because I have low income and I have this place. And I don't have extra funds. I have equity loan. I could help, but I said then I would maybe some months need help paying the equity loan. And I would, not feeling real confident. But I didn't put that. I said that, the communication's inconsistent. It's not positive. It's not a plus. I get it that my immediate family has issues with me. But I ended, it's all good, because it is. And so I said, I don't even know if I mentioned it. Maybe I did, I'm going to stop looking. Because, I don't know. I said, it all depends on you. On her, if she's going to do it. It had the right floor. It was right here, like probably as the crow flies, a half mile or three-quarter mile south, probably, in the flatlands, which is fine. Fenced yard for the dogs, and was move-in. Just clean, tidy. Probably some old lady lived in it that even had a little raised garden bed in back. Very simple, just grass and an overgrown arborvitae or something that in my better back days I would have taken my chainsaw and sawed it down, hauled it to the dump. Probably still would, or get somebody to do it. But, or leave it, who cares? But, so I wasn't going to send it, then I was, and then it wasn't, and then I said, yeah, just put this to bed. I said, it doesn't seem I said, I've been praying for a sign from God, praying for God's will. And I said, I guess I'm getting it. But it's all good. And I mean that now, because God really let me have it. It is His good. And if doors aren't opening, and if you have a relationship that's up and down, I was just finally being honest, and even said, I know it's hard to relate or to fathom that my pain could be so bad that I wouldn't want to live on concrete. I was at that point, back in 2012 when I sold my home in the Midwest. It was the first concrete slab I got extra thick pad and really thick carpet. So, sort of a low shag carpet was popular at the time, thinking that that would be okay because I had been on wood floors after I had sold the only other house with the well no my first house in as a single woman was concrete with the children, the little tiny place in Fallbrook. But see, I hadn't had my surgery yet then, and then the other one I was sick a lot more. Looking back, and I realized, well, I had concrete pad house, new house. And then the one that I built, I thought, oh, I'll put this thick pad and thick carpet in, and that'll help. And floating wood kitchen and dinette, that'll help. Well, no. When I remember when I sold that, I told myself, never again get concrete. Because even back then, it was affecting me. I was sick more with pain, more pain sieges, in bed more. So and now I just can't even fathom it. I still struggle standing. Doing all that gardening, I'm up and down, and moving around, bent over, standing straight up, and on a surface, standing still, like at a counter. It does it, even standing and walking around. Better on the grass than in the house. So that's just how it's going to have to be. And if people can't understand it, so be it. It's all good. It's all good either way. I came to like what my daughter says. It's true. It's a great attitude to have. It's all good. No matter what, it's all good. And so God let me know that firmly, that it's not it depends on how you use it. Who cares? It should be with good intention. It's truth then. It's pure love with good intention, with sincerity. And so I think it is all good. Now, if she wants to get it together and be consistent or whatever and trust. See, I had suggested to her way back when we were chipping all that tile out. How about light colored LVP in here? Take out the odd colored tile. It was a mixture in this one room of two tiles. And the other end had wood look, 2-foot long tiles. They would look plank, but they were tile, obvious tile. And I said, something light. You could get something light or something. LVP has some cushion to it. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like that. I want tile, and I want this tile. Well, then we have to see a townhome that had big tile light squares, made it look so much bigger and lighter. And but see, issues with Mom, any of them. See, they don't want to. She just didn't want to listen to, because I was trying to say light. Maybe I had even said it. A light LVP, it makes space larger. Well, she painted the walls light. She knows that. She knows design. She's had several homes now, but somehow just gets oppositional if I'm one way. So that's not a good basis for really endeavor that's going to take a lot of trust, because I don't have a means of income, and it's low and it stays low. It's been low all along for all these years. And my disability does not increase commensurate with inflation or anything. Absolutely not. And it started out low and it still's low. So still is low. And so, it's a big trust, trading with someone. And now she's a neat Nick, but who knows, with her fiance, or, well, I don't, he's tidy too, but more cluttered, but I'm cluttered. But she's a minimalist. So I'm sure, and this would be hers when I died, so I'm sure they would take care of it well, very well. But I need to have a place that's going to be okay for me. And, it's just, you have to have communication. I thought, well, this is a sign. This is not flowing. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not looking anymore. It's a waste of time, and it takes my mind off in another direction when, just keep plugging away here. I'm quite comfortable here, but it does seem silly because I might start cutting some tile tomorrow. We'll see, because it's such nice weather. Be ideal weather to get my bathroom backsplash around the tub at least cut with the good weather, so I don't have cold water flying around. It would be nice and hot. So that, isn't it amazing though, that how God just started, after the video stopped, he just started telling me, it all is good, and knock this off, my getting in a hissy fit and not liking that response. It's a great response. I'm using it now. I signed off. It's all good. Because it is. I was assuming she meant it in some other way. I think she really means it sincerely, that it's all good. And, but she just didn't want to talk about it. I think maybe she's done with moving in early. Just wait till I'm dead or have to go to some care home. But see, then we'd have to sell this place unless she wants to pay for my care home and keep the house. So be a decision. Because, we can do equity loan for a while and see how long I last. But, or I just stay in here. She did tell me at one point if it was going to be like 3 months, she would stay with me, live with me for the 3 months, while I was dying. And, probably get somebody to come in while she was working, but otherwise at night would be here. But I don't know if that, if she could really do it. I'm not easy. I get it. I accept it. Truly. I'm not insulted by it. I'm not hurt by it anymore that my kids don't like me. And that they have such bad memories of how terrible it was, how awful I was. I don't know exactly what I did, other than I know that for the first year or two, I was a mess, especially after, with the pain and all, and the no pain meds. That was rugged. And just to get then becoming Catholic. Actually, I went out to the convent, I think starting in 1992 or 93, probably 93, at least 2 years, 2.5 years. And those sisters helped me so much with the theology of suffering. I understood it in a totally different light. And it made sense because it is sensible. At God's views, how God is, based on Jesus Christ and his way with suffering, the good, and the power of it, the utilization of it. And since then, God has taught me so much more about suffering. So, I'm not concerned about teaching people about being hermits or even Cenobite diocese hermits. I'm concerned about teaching them what God has taught me that maybe will help someone in big ways with their lives, or just to share what God has taught me. Even if they already know it, then they don't need to read it or listen to it. So that seems to be the most important thing that I should be doing. And I've tuned all this out for, I've been in here, 7 years? And the first year it was, even all during the reconstruction. This bedroom's now painted. I can finish the trim around the windows slowly. So I've got other things I have to do first, like get those taxes in, which I'm hoping to do tomorrow morning, but now I'm staying up so late because I slept in late. So I got to get off this cycle, so I go to bed earlier, but I guess it's okay. I enjoy the night and the quiet, little bit of rest from energized puppies. They do get a little bit energetic at times. And we have a lot of togetherness. So I don't want to develop issues with my little puppies or have them develop issues with me. So a little separation as they sleep is good for them, because it wouldn't be good for them to also dislike me. So I want to just read this. I thought this was so good. It's what somebody asked Anthony. It's a saying of the Desert Fathers. It's all good. He doesn't say that, but in essence, yes. So somebody asked Anthony, "What shall I do in order to please God?" He replied, "Do what I tell you, which is this: wherever you go, keep God in mind. Whatever you do, follow the example of Holy Scripture. Wherever you are, stay there and do not move away in a hurry. If you keep to these guidelines, you will be saved." So this last part, wherever you are, stay there and do not move away in a hurry. Now, he means in some instances temporally. It's a virtue, it's a stability. Some vows, I think I included it in my hermit vow, have also include the vow of stability, that you won't just keep wandering around physically, because there's merit in being able to sink your roots down in and deal with the problems as they come. I admit, when I saw that little place that just sold, and so close, and move in, and light, fenced yard. Yeah, the fence would be fun to, restain it or something. It's a little faded. And there was carpet in the main room. I would put down hardwood, because I have extra hardwood I've been carting around with me that I got on the cheap. And or some other hardwood, because I can actually lay hardwood easier than I can the laminate LVP, because the hardwood I have the hardwood nail gun thing, the nailer you hook up to the air compressor, and you have this mallet, and you put the board down, it just hooks on the edge of the board. It loads with nails, certain floor nails. I even have extra of those. You whack them out. You whack this spot on the nailer, this big nailer that stands on the floor. You're standing up doing it. And you just move along. Boom, boom, boom. Set the next board, tap it into place, because they're tongue and groove. Boom, 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 right down the tongue. And then the groove fits right over it. You don't see the nails. I nailed the whole, well, and my daughter helped me with some of it, because it's fun, but she had to leave. That's when I was on the island. I did all the hardwood floors on the island, and it was gorgeous. And I had fun. Of course, I got a little bit manic about it, because the hickory I used had different variations. So I made sure that it followed. I always had interesting flow with the different boards. So the sizes and stuff, to have it varied, and all of that. It was really like a big puzzle, a creative puzzle, but it turned out gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So, and it was light and made the space seem bigger and lighter and brighter. So, because I wouldn't put in a dark floor in a small space. But that living room of that little place was very small. Well, all the rooms were small. In fact, I have some tiger eye oak. I have enough for, I think I have enough for about a 10 by 12 foot room or 10 by 11 room for like a study. Oh, it's gorgeous. It is dark. It's got a grain to it. Oh, Koine would love it. I made a deal with the floor guy at the Lowe's in Tacoma. Got in the flooring department. It was sitting around for a while. They'd had it for a while. A return of just a few boxes. I think there's maybe 8 or 10 boxes of it. So I forget how many square feet, maybe 140 or something, 150 square feet. Enough for a small room, nice office or something. Probably be my library room where I'd put my bookcases. And I have bookcases that I had before that are out in the garage now because I had these built-ins when I bought this place. But I kept those other bookcases just in the event. So, and that was my plan, was to finish this and sell it and get myself into a small place, but where I would have a very, very low payment that I could just, whatever money I made on this, I would add to. But interest rates have gone up quite a bit, like double from what I'm paying. So it wouldn't work out that way right now. But, so that wood I could use in a room. And that I paid $50 for all of that. I mean, I forget how much it was worth. It's very expensive. It was a special order wood, too, for Lowe's. Tiger eye oak. It's gorgeous. So, I mean, God used to get me such good deals on things. And that's worth hanging on to for when I do get someplace. Even if it's a trailer. Nail that stuff down and enjoy it, even though it's dark. Trailers usually have good windows, a lot of windows. So this thing though of stay there and do not move away in a hurry. Physical stability is good because you work through issues. It's not you have a problem and you leave. That's not the way to do. Or stay and just see what evolves and what develops. Like, the HOA men got over it once I nearly died. It took that, but it worked. I didn't intend for it to work, but it did. Thank you, Lord. So it's just great. Haven't been harassed at all. And everybody's just lovely. So, even the guy next door knows he's got to watch it. Not watch me, watch himself. Make sure he doesn't watch me in a wrong way. We got in big trouble the way he was acting before his harassment. Oh. Definitely not material now for that either, so that's good. See, stay in a place. You get old and creeps don't mistreat you. And so you work through the issues. But also it means stay wherever you are, in your spiritual life. Stay put. And do not move away in a hurry. Don't rush. Don't try to rush your progression. Let God handle you. Stability. Be stable in the Lord. Don't go running off yourself into trying to move yourself ahead faster, of wanting to progress faster, or go to some extreme spiritually. Like that's why asceticism, I learned, because I used to do physical asceticism. I would fast, I would eat only certain things, very little, or just certain things, or and offering up, making offerings of sacrifices. Because yes, scripture says Jesus prefers not that. He prefers sacrifices of your praise for him and love, and you know not doing yourself in, not creating. But see, I'd read all these saint books, and some of the early desert fathers who were barely ate, or only ate bread and water, or maybe ate every other day or something. And my spiritual father, and then I think I told you this, but he said, okay, because I said, well, I want to try the discipline. I said, what's the discipline? I kept reading. He says, well, they would like whip themselves with ropes or things with even metal in it, metal in the ends of the ropes, and cause themselves to bleed. And he says, well, the point was they wanted to experience what Christ experienced, being flogged. And so I said, oh, I want to try, see what it's like, and for love of God, and experience what Christ went through. Okay, go ahead. But he says, not long, not excessive. He says, and so I did a couple of nights, or so maybe 4 or 5 nights, with a belt. I used a belt, was one of my son's belts. He left from college, and he was I think, what was he then? Maybe a sophomore in college, junior in college, I think, that year, maybe even senior. And the belt buckle end and stuff, and honestly, my body has so much pain more than that. And my spiritual father had said, he says, go ahead, but he says, seems to me God gives you more than enough suffering, that won't even be much. He says, you don't need to add on more when you've got all you've got. But he was sort of, one that let her try, she'll have to find out the hard way. And I found out, yeah, it wasn't suffering to me. It didn't matter. It was far more pain that I have all the time. So, yeah, and especially when I had those spinal headaches, oh my goodness. I think God stopped them as a gift, because I didn't know how I could get through any more of them. It was just get too much the older I was getting. And God obviously wanted to keep me around longer for other things, to suffer in other ways, and to keep for the church and stuff. If I would stroke out from too much headache pain, and what good am I? What good is a victim soul who's dead or stroked out and unconscious or something? So, not much use. So, anyway, I'm part in jest on that part. But so this means, to wherever you are, stay there a while. Do not move away in a hurry. But and it means spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Don't rush. Don't be in a rush to leap. Be stable, sensible, prudent, and wait for God to move you on. And that means literally, physically, in death, in our ailments. That's why I was serious when I mentioned if I would go live in a place with concrete and tile. It's doing self-harm. In a sense, it is for me just to have to stand on something that would cause me a lot of added pain. So, what shall I do in order to please God? What shall I do in order to please God? So St. Anthony of the Desert replied, do what I tell you, which is this: wherever you go, keep God in mind. Whatever you do, follow the example of Holy Scripture. Wherever you are, stay there and do not move away in a hurry. If you keep to these guidelines, you will be saved. So I thought this was very, very good advice. So, I know this went on longer because I yap a lot, but I'm going to just do these little hermit desert father sayings from time to time, also from the Philokalia, and try to keep my little talks very brief. So, and I'll keep myself out of more trouble that way too, because I don't want to say things that I should. I'm praying to learn more prudence, control of the tongue, stability of the tongue, and it's all good. It's all good, and I mean it. And I'm sure my daughter means it. It's true. And I think God did guide. And I mean, if she comes around to some other thing, and if for some chance that place falls out a little escrow or whatever, great. But otherwise, I consider God is saying no. For the other thing I've considered, for my daughter and her fiance to be 5 minutes from their work and here a long drive. However, I do know that having light and a view and peace and quiet when she works so hard with all these people, both of them do. So I agree, it would be nice to have space and peace and quiet and beauty and nature. But it's all good the way it is now, too. And there's probably reasons why she didn't respond this week. It's been a week, but other than little things, like it's all good. That's nice. But and I do understand you want freedom. You don't want to have to check in with the person that you're the healthcare representative for. Well, I'm going to be gone next week, out of state. That's a nice thing to do, but it's not necessary. For most people don't think, or they get burned out. That's honest. That's fair enough. Need a break. So, good communication. People just say, I need a break, or here's my schedule for the next 3 months. And if you need something, call. I'll be gone. See that? Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, she's gone this week. Okay. It's good. Knowledge is power. It's good to communicate if you're comfortable doing so. But if you're a little bit burned out or too busy, then taking on other things can be too much then. So whatever, it's all good how this has worked out. And God is free to change things too. This is the longest I've lived in a place all my adult life, since 8th grade. I haven't lived anywhere for longer than 7 years. It was just 7 years that I have, a little bit over 7 years I've lived here. And up until that time, it was exactly 7 years, was my next longest place to live. So, it's sort of nice thinking about staying put. It's one of the three advices of Anthony of the Desert is, to not move, stay put. Of course, doesn't give any time frame to that. It's letting God move you on when you're supposed to. So if something would happen, and yes, it would work out, I have to admit, I would feel some relief. I think I'm at the point now, since I don't have the energy to really do much, not like I used to do. I used to put in several hours of pretty heavy duty work, and now I'm on the bed a lot, even today. But I got in 2.5 or 3 hours again of picking up debris and trimming things, and got dead leaves off of the Japanese maple. They were crumbling, but I finished, cleaning up. I got started cleaning out my son's prayer tree, the bright gold one. It's starting to turn chartreuse green on some of the needles up close to the branches. So I'll show it to you in another video. It's turning colors back to this yellow green, chartreuse green, and from the gold, but had a lot of dead in it. So I got in there and cleaned it out. And the more I did that and touching things, the more calm I got, the more it's all good became very, very good. And the whole thing became so silly, other than I recognized it was lack of communication, inconsistent communication that we have. And it often comes because of something that I say or do that's frustrating or upsetting, like even my pain getting so bad. Well, my daughter worries then, and she has to block herself from that because she has all these responsibilities. So this week she was maybe blocking herself. Just had to put the wall down or up. Put in the blockade to free herself from all my suffering as a different and concern. What will I do for mom if she can't get better? We've got to get her out of there because she's horrified by how I'm living in here. It's minor compared to the island, but she had moved away. I was in the island in a bad way with it for about 4 years while I kept working on it. It was only the final year that it started to look really nice. But, I've lived through worse in other ways. In other words, far worse. And you come to understand it's all good. I was going to say it doesn't matter, but no, that it's all good. Even whatever living circumstance we're in. If we have a roof overhead, that's a big plus that doesn't leak water when it rains. I've been there, I can tell you. And water flying in through the walls at you at night in November when it's cold. And your bed's getting soaked and you're getting soaked. And you're helpless there. And then the next day, you're on the ferry and you see this truck. Ojeda Construction, roofing, and general contractor. And there's this man, and I get out, you stay in your vehicles on the ferry, but you can get out if you want. I got out, knocked on his window. Could I have your business card? Or maybe, I don't know if I even did. I think I did, and then I wrote down his number. He might have said, call me or something. Maybe didn't have a card at the time. I remember writing his number down from the side of his truck, and then I did call him, but I'm sure I introduced myself on that ferry and said I desperately need help with a roof. You see, I was sold it in the summer when we didn't have rain there on that island. In the fall, then the rains come. Oh, do they come, and they come, and they come. All year until the next summer, till June. And it was just pouring in through this roof that I was told still had 10 years left on it, was just fine. Or no, I think the other had 10. One of them they said was just fine and the other had 10 years left. Well, it turned out none of it was fine, nor the siding, obviously, nor anything else really about the place was fine. It's infested, birds and rats inside, raccoons outside. So I just had to redo. I was stuck. If I would have sold it, it would have been hard to sell it because I had already started to fix the bottom area up. I was, and I'm praying. We were taking up linoleum, and all of a sudden, My daughter says, "Is this asbestos?" It was like from the 50s. And we were chipping it up, and my grandson, so I've got that on me. I pray and pray they don't get cancer from it or pulmonary fibrosis. We stopped immediately, of course, got masks. I mean, I think they were wearing masks, but stopped, got gloves, and I said, don't, And I took it off the sides. My daughter helped with a few pieces. The trick is you just don't dare break it. And you double bag it. And wear gloves and clothes, and you wash your clothes. Because other people that you hire people, environmentalists, they'll take it off for like $20,000. But I ended up taking it off the house because I thought, well, I'm expendable, But I took my precautions, and I could get pulmonary fibrosis or something, and that might be the way God will choose to have me die, like my mother. I feel like I should suffer what she suffered, in a way. So it's interesting life, and it's all good. That's the point. It's just all good, and God loves sincerity, purity of heart, pure love. Need to have honest and sincere intentions. Sarcasm doesn't cut it. I was being sarcastic and fed up in the first video, or the video right before this. Going, oh, it's all good. Oh, yeah, it's all good. Well, there are some things that just seem horrible, horrible. I think it's horrible that no one will visit Michelle in Australia. Her neighbors stay to themselves. Some minister lady was going to come visit her, and she obviously is not, because no one's come. She's alone. She's suffering terribly from loneliness. I don't know why her mother doesn't come and help her. Her feet, her legs, her hands, and her face have this myalgia, or something like that. Erythromyalgia. It is horrific nerve pain, and you even become red and swollen. It's just awful pain. And she can't afford a nurse, and she can't get special assistance in Australia until she's 65. She's got 9 years to tough it out. But she was baptized Catholic. All she'd have to do is call and join. And I said at least a parishioner or Eucharistic minister would come once a week with the Eucharist for you, with communion. They do that automatically after Mass on Sundays. But she doesn't want to be Catholic. So, see, I would just, if you need to see people, they'll come. But otherwise, for this extreme of a situation, this is her dark night of a soul. I think it's practically worse suffering for her to have the loneliness than the pain in some ways. It seems so, because abject rejection and loneliness. See, but she says she follows Jesus. See, I forgot to write this to her, so I hope she's listening to this, and I had to learn this myself, because on that island I had no one. Well, I mean, like if Raphael came to do the roof, he would talk, but that was done, and then that was it, So until maybe it was the last year, John Patrick started coming to help. He was a student of my daughter's when she was there in the ESL classes she taught at some college, and they had moved away within 2 years of my moving out there. She'd sort of, talked me into moving out there, and then they ended up moving away. And the time that we were up and down. It wasn't consistent. So, I think you have to have a really strong relationship for a business dealing, I think. So and God knows that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I start thinking this is God's answer, but just for me to face it and realize, and it's my fault, because of, they grew up with someone with pain, and I'm not that good of a person. I mentioned, they write about these people. Say, oh, and they always smiled. They never complained, no matter the suffering. I thought, well, good for them. I'm not there. I can't. It's too much pain. I can't just glide through it. I it's a struggle. Severe pain is a struggle for years. So no, I would, that could never be said of me that I don't complain. And I don't see a point in not complaining if it's that bad. I try not to complain to other people, but I often give a pain report on these, which is probably getting boring and like, get over it, lady. We don't need to hear it. And that's true, but I need to express it. It helps me get it out. Some people say, oh, but you're just repeating the suffering, then you're clinging to it. No, it's cathartic for me to give a report on it if it's been bad, really bad. It's an emotive release. So, helps. So anyway, but yeah, so it's God could be having Michelle suffer if she wants to follow him, because I wanted to be with Jesus so much. I had to experience what he experienced in life. That's why I had so many rejections. He was kicked out of the synagogues. He was run out of his hometown. They were going to kill him. He had to walk through their midst and get out before they did. And go off to another place. He had to keep moving around. He was it says, that part in Isaiah, he was a worm and no man. I used to say, I'm a worm and no woman. So, if you want to follow Jesus and you get along so far, suffering and experiencing the types of suffering he had, of which rejection and feeling alone. So she's in a Garden of Gethsemane, definitely. And it's not up to us to know how long it's going to last either. But if she's a victim soul, and I said, suggested finding some of the hermits online to read. They'll be your friend and helper. I don't get lonely anymore. Of course, I can get out, like the neighbor saw me and said something to me later this afternoon. Oh, needed to borrow mayonnaise, that was it. And so that was a contact. So I haven't, but on the island I went without people for long lengths of time. And it was hard, especially when family fell apart and left, was upset with me and cut me off. But that doesn't get to me anymore. I mean, it irritates me. It did a little bit. This, I don't like not being responded to, but Jesus wasn't responded to at times. So we always are learning. Those of us who are following Christ and love Christ and want to be as Christ, we can't if we don't experience what he experienced on earth. And granted, ours in far lesser degree, because we're not Christ, we're not perfect. We have sin in us, so things don't register as deeply with us as they do with perfection and purity. Then a rejection to purity and perfection and to God is huge compared to our being rejected. Because we've sinned, we've rejected people in our own ways. or unintentionally even we have. Most people we have, there have been people I've had to break away from. Like if they were their problems and they wanted me to help them and help, but wouldn't ever do anything. Sort of I was an unpaid therapist, and if they pay someone, they would do what they were suggested to do, but they wouldn't do anything I would suggest. So they just kept in their myth of Sisyphus, rolling the ball up the hill, and then it would roll back down on them, roll it up. It's constant turmoil. Um, wouldn't change their relationships they were in by just a few simple things that they would change of themselves, would change the dynamics and solve things. No, they wouldn't do it. They just preferred talking to me every day. And I finally said, hey, I'm a hermit. I'm not a therapist. You need to go see one. Oh, I don't want to. Well, too bad. So I finally had to cut off a couple people. And it was, I said, because it's disrupting my vocational life. I didn't want to tell them too harshly. It's because you need therapy, professional help, and medication probably for your issues. And the one woman needed to get away from her husband. But God helped her. He had a massive heart attack. And so she wasn't being abused anymore. And that was that. So it was emotional, mental, verbal abuse, but so upsetting to her that, and it got at time. I mean, his own two children wouldn't come visit them because of how he treated their mother. Their adult children stopped coming to see them and felt bad. They would keep in contact with the mother but wouldn't come. Didn't want to be around their dad because of how he acted toward her. It was horrible. And she'd call sobbing. Then I would worry. She was across the country, and I'd tell her, call the police. Oh no, I love him so much. That wouldn't be right. I'd even explain spiritually. God doesn't expect you to take this. He's to treat you like Christ, like God would expect the church to be treated. St. Paul, I said, read St. Paul again. What he says, how the husband is to treat the wife. And you're not being treated that way and haven't ever been. So, but like I say, God handled it. Bless her heart. She's very sweet, very holy, very sincere. And she didn't have much education, so felt very inferior too, and felt like she couldn't make it on her own. I guess she's doing fine, doing great, in fact. So I'm so proud of her and happy for her, but I had to cut it off. And, I had to get work done, or I was running out of money on that island anyway. So, I rejected. And same with the young woman who she needed professional help. And it was getting to be manipulative of me. And so I would, it's unhealthy if we stay in something like that too long. I wasn't a licensed clinical psychologist. I'd only got a little over half a doctorate and some intern hours. And that was not my role. But I was being placed in it. And wasn't making any headway, because they generally don't if they aren't paying money for it or taking it seriously as a professional situation. Instead, it was just a constant, repetitive venting, crying, upset, anger, temper issues, little children, little family, and husband gone all day until later. And thankfully, the mother-in-law was coming over a lot. I feared for the children because the young woman was very imbalanced. And she said she went to a therapist. I said, what kind? Well, what? And she was supposed to, her doctor, I said, even her GP, I think, put her on some meds, but then she wouldn't take it. So, see, and she needed meds. So I had to back away from that because, for one thing, I thought she's got to hit the wall. If she still has me to use every day as her unpaid therapist, then and not going to do anything, not going to make any headway, I need to have her just hit the wall, and then she'll have to get help, even if she gets, hospitalized for a few weeks, something. But I don't know what him. But I always had and God had said, use your pain or you as a cover. And but instead, I honestly could say it's interfering too much with my hermit vocation. It's, if somebody has a spiritual issue or something or question, yes, I can help them. But if it's a repeated every day, no, that's not healthy. So rejection, see, I bet Michelle probably in some way with somebody at some time in her life, maybe an ex-husband or something, had to say no more. That's a form of rejection. In the minds of people who aren't healthy, it is. They feel like, oh, I've been rejected. Well, no, it was a necessary break-off. For good reasons, sometimes we have to reject and say no to other people. So, okay, but it's all good. See, all these things are for good. We do things for the good of others. The friend that, her husband had died and she kept on trying to get house, all this, it's got to be too much. And I had to just cut away. And she's doing just fine. See, she didn't need me like that. And it was getting oppressive into my own life. I had a handyman here I was trying to work with, and phone calls, and, just couldn't do it anymore. And she managed it great. So, and she has a daughter that she's very close with who lives nearby now, or did at the time, or when she was getting this house, and it all worked out great for the better, far better. Removing ourselves often helps the other person in amazing ways. We're not their best answer, in other words. It's humbling, but it's true. So if we just remember these things, follow the scriptures, follow example of Holy Scriptures, whatever we do. And wherever we go, keep God in mind. And wherever we are, stay there and don't move away in a hurry. You can move away, just not in a hurry, when God wants you to move away, or if He does. Love to you all. Thought this could be short, but I think I'm impossible to do short things of anything. I don't even know if my little thing is in here. Oh, here it is, to turn it off. Such a techno klutz also. Good night or morning, wherever you are.